Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for having the time to meeting me.
Really welcome.
It's a pleasure to finally meet you after talking so long online. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself? Where you come from, how you started?
I'm from Istanbul. My ancestors are from Istanbul, like 300 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a real Istanbul person. Um, I studied engineering. Um, I started making music as a hobby, as a special interest. But then I went so into it that it happened to be my whole life. And last 28 years, I only deal with music. All my earning, all my life was, so almost half of my life is only through music.
So music must definitely mean a lot to you.
Probably more than you think. Yeah.
Yeah, because music is an expression of our life, but you express your emotions and your passion through writing and then playing and then experimenting.
Moreover, I have uh, a disease. I perceive many things as music. For instance, I see a tree in my dream. It's definitely a tree. I can swear on it, but I only hear the music of it, and I understand that it's a tree. It's kind of disease. It's also in my daily life.
It's also a superpower.
So I'm destined to be in the music.
It's incredible. Actually,
Biologically,
I've never heard of it because for me, everything always was stories. When I would see something, I would imagine what it used to be. I would see pictures. I would see the whole image of how it's different. But for you, it's a sound, and that's something I've never heard before. And yes, you were born and destined to be a composer, and that there's no doubt about it. It's my first time in Istanbul. Definitely not the last time in Istanbul. Not only I feel like home, like it's a place I can belong here, I can be a part of, but I feel like the city speaks volumes. It has many different stories. The city is alive and the city plays music and you just have to sit down and listen to it. Can you tell me how does the city inspire you?
um, I was born in the music because my grandfather was a musician, and the uh, grandfather of my grandfather was a musician also. So I'm from a musician family. I've been born in such an atmosphere. So my ear is full of Turkish music. Uh, Unfortunately, these 2 generations ago, they did not listen very much Western Western music, not classic, not jazz, nothing. So this part was my discovery. So when I discovered Western classic music, it was love in the first glance. I was an uh, admirer of classic music. So I all my life I carried two sides inside me. I think this helped in my compositions.
Absolutely. So who's your favorite composer?
Uh, my this very pretentious, but I think that Rachmaninoff is the ever is the highest point in the humanity if we talk about music.
Wow. For me, it was always Brahms, Johann Brahms, because I loved the passion. Like I could actually feel the passion and the stories he wanted to portray through the compositions he made. And I did classical music for 5 years.
These are milestones, very precious. If Brahms did not exist, maybe
Someone else wouldn't exist. Exactly.
Rachmaninoff wouldn't
Of
be.
course.
But
It's continuous
if
inspiration.
Beethoven didn't exist, Brahms wouldn't be.
Of
And
course.
if Bach didn't exist, so
It's a continuous
yeah,
inspiration, absolutely.
yeah.
And
But in my opinion, Rachmaninoff has not been yet exceeded.
yeah, my sister is also playing classical music for the past 25 years. I played for 5 years. I discovered I didn't have so much passion as my sister has, but I got to appreciate it. I did music theory. I played the piano for a few years. It definitely has given me the ability to appreciate music much more and train my ear to really focus on specific instruments, just like you have. Or through your music, you have many different layers, as we said earlier today. And I like the word layer because it really is like this. And I feel like this is very similar on how Istanbul is like. You have many different layers, not only on different civilizations who came on top of each other and top of each other, different influences, many different people, many different cultures, and many different neighborhoods, which each one has a different story. But as a whole, Istanbul is like a composition. It's like a big, beautiful piece of work, sound. So, what is the continuous inspiration for you to progress through your music?
Many, all the life itself is very inspiring. This city is inspiring. Uh, I'm very lucky to work with, uh, to play with uh, very good musicians in my group and around me. So they are inspiration for me. The music itself is inspiration. When you listen a piano concerto of Rachmaninoff for maybe 1,000 times, you still
Get a new story.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
That's what I mean by layer. You always discover something new.
So Istanbul is a city of contrasts. We go to one place, it's very quiet, and the next moment is very loud. You have music in one corner, you have traffic in one place, you have nature in another place. So it has big contrast. Also for the languages you hear on the street, on the religions you see around you. You see the synagogues, the Armenian churches, the mosques. It's a city of big contrast, and you can realize it the moment you step into the city. Do you think that your music represents this contrast we see there?
I think this whole picture that you de- try to depict is uh, constituted with many kind of people and cultures. We are just one color, one piece of it. We are not, of course, every micro part of it contains some of the whole, but we are one sound of Istanbul. There are others. So we don't represent as a unity all the contrasts in every layer of it. I don't think so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it feels like through your work, you also contribute to Istanbul's beautiful, diverse image that it has.
We try to.
Yeah, you try to, because yeah, through your music, you try to tell a story and you try to praise Istanbul and try to explain to the listener with their imagination, even without being there, what Istanbul is like through your eyes.
Whatever I tell you or whatever you tell everybody, everyone will have their own experience, their own impression, perception about the city. And that way it must be.
So tell me then, if someone has never been to Istanbul, how should he come here? How should he travel in order to really experience a part of this image you try to portray for Istanbul?
I would suggest to read about this city. Uh, you can't read all the history. It's so rich and so old and so many. But at least to have an idea, uh, people can have some small readings about the food, about the music, about the religions, about the history, about the geography of the city, which is very unique, as you
We can
know.
see Europe right here
Yeah.
across from us. Yeah.
So we are so close. We are in Asian part, and you can swim to European part. So some reading before coming would help more than you can estimate.
When you take a walk, let's say you said you hear sounds when you see something. So when you walk through the city, let's say a busy bazaar, what kind of inspiration do you get?
First of all, that's a nice question. Thank you. I walk. I like to walk, and I walk a lot. Uh, I walk so much that sometimes the battery of my car fades out. So you have to be open to the inspiration because it can come anytime. And if your windows are open, it will come almost steadily, regularly, every day, every hour, every time. Uh, but this does not mean that I'm very glad and very peaceful with this state of the chaotic state of Istanbul. I don't like it. It's too chaotic for me. And time to time, I'm really overwhelmed. And I try to shut myself down and have my headphones and listen to nice music that I like Rachmaninoff or Beethoven or something, or Turkish music or others. And I try to uh, not to hear this noises.
Unfortunately, but even with its overwhelming, fast-pacing energy, would you change Istanbul for any other city?
Very, very fishy question.
Well,
Uh,
I'm doing the interview.
Very good question. I don't know. I don't know. Um, the only geography that I can compare with Istanbul is Greece.
Yep.
I love Greece.
We're very similar.
And yeah, maybe that's the reason. I feel so much Greek and peaceful and uh, citizen when I am there. So that I feel like it's a continuation of this geography. So, but when I go to Europe, other countries other than Greece, I feel like a tourist.
That's exactly the feeling I had here. Because, I mean, I think I mentioned it before. It's probably the first time in my life that I go to a location and I feel immediately like I visit an extension of my own country. Because the people are so close, and except from the language, everything else is the same. Everything else feels the same to me. And the same for all my Turkish friends who came to Greece. They had exactly the same feeling. And it's very similar.
So you expressed my feelings.
I think so. I think so. From a different perspective, from the other way around, but I also feel it. And I can imagine that Istanbul is overwhelming, but also Istanbul is like a charming lady that keeps on making you fall in love with it. Sometimes it makes you angry, sometimes it makes you stressed, but you continue loving her.
Maybe, yeah.
What makes Istanbul unique compared to any other big city in the world?
Hmm. The sound of it, all the sounds. The prayer coming from Jami, the campanas of a church, anything.
Yeah.
The horn of a boat, uh, all of them, or a ambulatory seller uh, shouting about
The people who are screaming for Simit.
Yeah, like in Greece. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't hear it in Germany or in United States. Anyway, first of all, the sounds, but also food. But for the food, my advice is to read before coming, because the best food are not the most starred restaurants in the list. You have much more to discover, which are not touristic, but which are more delicious actually. With a single word, it's rich. Another answer would be chaotic. Another answer would be multi-layered.
Yeah, but Stravinsky's music is chaotic, sometimes chaotic. But at the same time, when you listen to it as a whole, it is a harmony.
Western music is based on minors and majors. Turkish music is based on makams.
On what?
Makam.
And what is a makam?
Makam is mode. As there is no equivalent in Western music, we have to. I prefer to express in Turkish terminology. Makam is kind of mode, and it contains microtonal intervals, which do not exist in Western music. This is diversity and a richness, but at the same time, a difficulty, because when it is so, you cannot harmonize. Injasa's music is the first attempt which achieved this. Injasas have combined makams with harmony. They have done something which was not done before. This is a unique achievement of the group. So when you come to Istanbul and to Turkey and listen to uh, traditional Turkish music, you won't hear harmonies. When you listen to Injasas, you will. So this is the difference, the main difference.
When you need to write music, obviously you have to portray different emotions depending on the piece of work you're trying to do. Are there different neighborhoods you're visiting depending on the type of emotion you try to portray to inspire yourself?
There are two kinds of compositions that I do. One is for a film or for a TV show or for a documentary. This is definitely based on the ideas and the feelings of that work. I not try to push my own feelings into it. There's definitely this the sound that I think of that will fit there. When I write for my ingestas or for my own composition, that's only my feeling, and then I involve my walks in whole city, not only Istanbul. All I'm a sea person. I adore traveling with sailing boat or with boats, and sea itself is a big inspiration for
It's
me,
very therapeutic.
very much. And because of my disease, I think I hear more of more sound of sea than an ordinary person would. I try to transcribe it into the music, and
And I think the sea inspires you to, because you don't have anything more to attract your attention. Everything is blue, everything is empty, everything is peaceful, and that's a moment where you can face your own emotions. I remember a couple of years ago we went to Chios, to my island, to pick up salt with my uncle with his boat, and there, once we sat there next to on the rocks in the sea, there you could see how much more relaxed he was and how much he opened his heart. And I think that relates to what you say, because there you can relax, you can let yourself go from any kind of stress and visualize whatever you need to do. Beautiful. Is there a particular neighborhood in Istanbul that captures your heart more than others?
I can mention two. First of all, Üsküdar, that is it's where we are actually. Second is uh, Prince Islands.
We went there a couple of days ago. We loved it.
Really nice.
And why Prince Island?
We had a house in one of them, Antigone, Burgazada, and I lived there for a while. It's I'm so much part of it, and it's so much part of me. I can't tell this only for this island, especially for Burgas and Üsküdar. It's like our identities come together.
Okay, so what kind of emotions does it bring you when you take a walk, when you visit, let's say, Iskidar or
First of all, Üsküdar is very welcoming, very frank,
Absolutely.
very welcoming. You could uh, walk in any street of it, and still you will feel at home. And as an instance, think that you have something wrong, a disease or something. You could find people to help you immediately. This is what Üsküdar is.
When we were in Süleyman Mosque, I'm no historian, but you could see, of course, the mosque from the Ottoman Empire, some Byzantine walls. Then across from the shore, you could see these neoclassical Ottoman buildings from the 1850s, early Republic, 20th century. And then from the back, you could see the skyscrapers rising. So you could see all the layers of history of the city in front of your eyes. And of course, the Bosporus, which was always the heart of the city. So we can see it progressing from old to new. How do you feel about the progression of a Turkish music? About how do you make the connection with the past, to the present, and to the future? Because your music is definitely not classical in the old sense, but you take elements of it.
Exactly.
You embrace the
We
past.
we try to encore our stems to the classical, but we never want to repeat it without any interpretation, without any add-ons. We try to construct our own style, our own preferences. By the way, this kind of you mentioned about the mosque. This kind of mosque do not exist in Arabic countries. This kind of architecture is inherited from Greeks,
Okay.
from Eastern Roman Empire.
Mhm.
This kind of architecture you can only see in Ottoman geography, in old territory. If you go to other Muslim country, the architecture changes.
And I think this really answers the question of, as I said, I feel like, of course, this is a Turkish city, but it was always shared. The culture was shared from many different places, and everybody was inspiring each other, and that's how the city progressed to be the one we know today. And I personally am in love with it because of that.
Just behind these trees, there are two mosques, very famous, as you know, Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia. Please have a look and see how alike they are. The same understanding, the same architecture.
Absolutely, very similar.
One
And
is
of
church,
course-
one is mosque.
Of course. And that's why I say it's a constant inspiration. We said that the city has many different layers, and each person should take the time and not just go to the center, but visit different neighborhoods and get a better feeling of it. How should listeners listen to your own music? How would you tell them to? You suggest that?
When you listen to İnce Saz, you can find traces of a wedding, traces of a funeral, traces of a
Celebrate.
celebration, traces of a liturgy,
Yeah.
religious liturgy, uh, traces of a meditation, many different colors uh, combined with Injasa's identity, Injasa's main thought. Uh, I just advise to listen not once a piece, because every time you listen, you'll discover something else.
And maybe when, depending on how you feel,
Oh,
you experience it differently.
yeah, because music is not what you give. Music is what is perceived by people who listen. The art itself is like that. It's not what you give. It's what is it is perceived.
Yeah, and walking through the streets. Yesterday we were walking from the Suleiman Zami to Hagia Sophia, and we were discussing this. That okay, everything feels very modern and very traditional in some parts, but the streets, even though they were built on top, are still the same. Many different people who have walked through them. Different people with different stories, and I feel like your music gives a story, but will always be here for Istanbul. It embraces the past, but it also inspires the people for the future.
Thank you. When an artist go to a location, a city, her eyes or his eyes, his ears, her ears receive more data than ordinary tourists. Um, a mosque is not just a mosque. There are millions of decoration in it, carpets, every part of it, or a street. All every building has different shape, different inspiration, different color. As an artist, you get attracted by this variety, by this diversity. Uh, I think this is as inspiring. This is why many artists, not only painters, musicians, poets, travel. That's why we travel, to get inspired by other people. Because when we go to other places, we are not just visiting touristic places. We feel, we hear other things than ordinary people do.
You've been in many places around the world.
Not many, yeah, but
You've traveled,
yeah, I travel
okay,
a lot.
quite a lot. How has this journey helped you to progress maybe your music, but also appreciate the place you come from?
I have a small notebook as pentagram.
Oh, okay.
So because these smartphones did not exist just a few years ago, I always and still I am having notes. As I told you before, I hear things that people do not. So I have small notes, and these are enough to remember afterwards which I heard. So wherever I go, I have in my pockets, and I have small notes. So every corner of every country I go is inspiring for me.
Do different countries speak different music to you?
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
After being abroad, is there something you appreciate even more about this city?
Not really. I'm a world
Something saying me.
I'm a world citizen. The only thing I miss here is my family, my friends. This doesn't mean that Istanbul is a special place.
Of course, of course, of
Not
course, of course.
every
Every place has its own special part if you look for it.
everywhere you go, you take yourself there. You take all your feelings, all your background, everything there. So you can't get inspired everywhere in
Okay,
this
then
world.
tell me, how should a traveler travel? How should someone travel to really experience what you experience in a destination?
Someone has to be open in all senses.
Or new experience?
Ears, eyes.
You have to embrace it.
Yeah, yeah. Not to be afraid of. There is nothing to be afraid of. Of course there are, but you don't go there. The fear keeps us away from experiencing and from perceiving things, the real deep things. We have to leave our fears and we have to be open.
That's what my mother was saying. Hi, Mom. Before coming here. And she said, oh, you have to be careful in Istanbul. It might be dangerous. It's very crowded and everything. Be very wary. And my mom was always like this. And when I came here, the experience was very different. Because yes, there's rational fear and irrational fear. You always have to think critically. Is this something I should do or not? But when the answer is not, or you have to analyze it and say, okay, this is something I can do safely, that's when you open up and things come. Like things open up and you just take it all in. And
You
I think
start attracting feelings.
exactly. And you attract the people
Yes, of course.
themselves.
Wherever you go, in a short while, you find people like you. How does it happen?
And I think the more you travel, the more you understand that the world is much smaller than you think. And there's less things that keeps us apart. Is there a country you would like to visit one day?
Japan.
Japan? Why is that?
I've never been, but I read much about it.
Should we take you if we go to Japan? You can tell us what kind of music the streets play.
Yeah,
How do you dream Japan then?
I dream. I don't have dreams actually. I have never been in such a country. So as an island, it's a very unique and very very unique place. I think so. Maybe it's not, but I think so. There is something in it that appeals to me as a culture, as a music, as a tradition, and as literature.
So, as a closing note, I don't want to take more of your time. Is there something you would like to tell to people on why they should come to Turkey and how can they make their own story here, even for a short time?
First of all, Turkey is not a dangerous country like some countries in Middle East that there is actual war. You can safely come and stay and see, experience. Please don't behave like tourists. Try to be in the sea, in the water. Try to feel it. Try to don't have fears.
Yeah, just open your heart and the people will open their heart for you.
Exactly.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
I think.
And I hope our paths cross soon.